welcome everyone to the webinar that we're going to do on mental health and academic consideration requests. I'm going to pass it over to Annie Yang, who's going to do a bit of an introduction.
Yes, hi folks. Hi everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Annie Yang. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Vice President of Finance and Services at CESAX. So in a moment CESAX just stands for the Continuing Education Student Association of Essex University, and we represent all of our part-time undergraduate, change school, continuing education, or certificate students. So that's probably all of you folks. So I'm going to start with a bit of a land acknowledgement and a little bit of a reflection, just in relation to what we're talking about today. And I'm going to hand it over to Lindo. So to start, Toronto is in the dish with one spoon territory. The dish with one spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabes, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. And also, just to back up a little bit. So because X University at downtown Toronto, that's where we're doing our, that's where we're situated. But for all of you folks who are joining, if you are in different territories and different nation lands and different treaty lands, we really highly encourage you to kind of find resources to educate yourself. And we have one resource that you can use in a chat to kind of find out what land, what nations, what treaty you are on. So yes, back to the land acknowledgement. So subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. So a little bit of a reflection about colonialism and our conversation today for mental health and academic consideration. So I just want to recognize that CESAX also want to recognize that as a academic institution, and as part of X University, we are a very colonial system. We operate out of a colonial system and a system that is full of anti-Indigenous racism. So folks in the community do experience this racism within the institution, with the curriculum, and also in day-to-day interactions. So that could look like whose knowledge and what knowledge is valued, and whose history and whose legacy is being taught and not taught, and kind of the evaluation criteria as a post-secondary education, and then just day-to-day kind of interactions of kind of the microaggressions and kind of the ignorances that folks could experience from the administration and staff and their peers. So how that relates to our mental health challenges, it's often, it tends to be kind of placed, the blame of mental health or the responsibility of mental health is usually falls on the individual rather than kind of like the system. So that's very different from Indigenous and kind of other cultures where kind of the responsibility of kind of individual health is on the community rather than just a product. You're not just a product of yourself, but a product of the community. So today we're talking about self-advocacy, and that is really important to in the context of a colonial system to kind of learn how to advocate and speak up and ask for your help for yourself. And it's often easy to advocate for others' needs, but maybe more difficult to kind of reach out and ask for help when we are experiencing mental health challenges ourselves. And there's a lot of kind of just discrediting and kind of self-canceling that's going on. So we want to encourage more of this type of conversation. So today we'll learn about self-advocacy within the academic setting, but we just encourage more of these conversations. And if you do have more ideas and thoughts, please reach out to CESAX about how we can kind of have further conversations. So that is it from me, and I'm going to pass it on to our student right coordinator, our amazing Lindo Musselman, to kind of get us started for the session.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Annie. So yes, my name is Lyndall Musselman and my pronouns are she and her. I am a full-time staff person at CESAX and I am the student rights coordinator. So I am, just a little bit to describe my role, I am an advocate for students at the university. And recognized by policy and by many folks at the university as someone who can help students out really around any kind of academic concern or kind of complaint that you might have against the university. So thank you for being here. Also, you're welcome to use the Q&A function. If you have questions as we're going along, you're welcome to ask questions anonymously through the Q&A if you like, or you can share your name, whatever you're comfortable with. And then we'll have a discussion and can have some questions at the end as well. And we'll stop the recording at the end. So you'll be free to talk and we can grant some talking privileges through Zoom at the end too, in case that's easier for you to ask your questions. Okay, so we've talked about CESAX now, so that's great. And we'll move on to the content, really, the substantive piece about today's session. So basically, knowing university policy, it can help you and help your mental health, really. So it can be so beneficial to just understand how asking for assistance and like using the university's policies can really be the way to solve your problems. It can be to your advantage, right? So we'll go on more to explore this idea of academic consideration. So yes, this is the phrase, this is the term that the university uses when a student would like a deferral of an exam, if you're just wanting to push back and have a makeup exam, or if you need an extension, you need more time to be able to finalize that project, that essay that you've been working on. So basically, that is what academic consideration is. So there are policies, actually one that is explicitly called the academic consideration policy, which we'll get more into. But there are other policies too that are there to try to help students when they face challenges or any barriers that kind of blocks their academic performance or their ability to be successful while you're in courses. So we'll move on here. Yeah, basically it's so key to just assess yourself, like know that if you get into a jam, if you get overwhelmed, or there is a conflict of like overlapping due dates that you have from the different courses you're in, or there's a midterm on a day that you already have a very important medical procedure set up, and it can't be moved, for example, there are ways that you can ask for consideration. So basically, it could be a health concern. It could be something that is really seriously distracting you, upsetting you. Like it could be the health of your loved ones. It could be your roommate. If your roommate is really unwell or is struggling with something and you just need to be there to support them, that's a valid reason to seek out academic consideration. So you're going to hear this acronym a lot at the university, an ACR. Do an ACR. What's that? That is an academic consideration request. It's kind of the lingo that they use, a short form that a lot of administrative people or professors may use in emails when they're corresponding with you. So yeah, know what an ACR is, and you can use it to help you out. So it is Senate Policy 167, that is the academic consideration policy. So this is the key policy that is meant to give some flexibility, some discretion to professors that so that they are basically authorized to make adjustments, to grant you makeup dates for tests. Also, yeah, just extend deadlines, things like this. And also even reweighting of course components might be a type of, remedy that you could request through seeking out academic consideration. If you ended up missing the first midterm, your professor might even just suggest to move the weight of that midterm maybe to your final exam, which might be kind of a freaky thing because it puts more kind of weight on the back end on a component for your course that's usually weighted higher anyway, but that might be like a good thing potentially for you rather than maybe adding in another test to write, right? Like it might be convenient for the professor and it may be convenient for you too, right? It all depends. So I see a question here in the Q&A. And I'll just answer it live for now because that'll be easiest. So yeah, around labs, if you miss labs, ask your professor or try to go through. And in the presentation here, I will also talk about the online system for ACRs or academic consideration requests. So it's worth trying and asking about it. You also might, around the specific example of a lab and missing a lab, you probably should review your course outline or syllabus carefully because there might be a caveat, like a rule in the course outline that says that there might not be a way to make up labs, because sometimes labs, or there's more like complicated things where there needs to be all the, I don't know, materials, all of the ingredients for a lab in place. And maybe it is that is something that cannot be like recreated that easily, but you never know. It's worth asking, right? So we're going to talk now about the definition of extenuating circumstances. So it is from policy 167. Okay, and so here is the definition. So there's these three pieces, these three elements that make up the university's definition of extenuating circumstances. So occurrences that are outside of a student's immediate control could not have been reasonably foreseen or avoided, or C, significantly impacts a student's ability to fulfill their academic requirements. So really, they're kind of looking for all three of these criteria to be satisfied. And like, don't you stress too much about like all of these details too much, because basically if you're sick and unwell, you're incapacitated, right, to some degree. And that's something you can't control, right? typically. And it's usually something that is fairly out of your control, right? And so, yeah, that's, extenuating circumstances. It does include health, and the university used to have this kind of category, this name for other types of extenuating circumstances called compassionate grounds or compassionate reasons. And that would include the death of a loved one, being evicted, basically like an event or occurrence that also falls into these kind of categories, right? That's extenuating circumstances. I hope that is clear. And again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to use the Q&A, and I'll try to get you a quick answer. All right, so, oh yes, this video. So last year, we worked on creating a video to explain academic consideration requests, and the fact, very exciting thing that you should all know, that there is a one-time opportunity for students each semester to request an ACR request consideration without including any documentation, without having to go get a letter from your doctor or a regulated health professional. So this is a sort of newish aspect of the policy. So we were really trying to educate folks on campus, educate students about this option, because it can save you money. If you don't know already, getting a doctor's note usually costs at least like $25 to $35. And the university, with revising and creating policy 167 a couple of years ago, they were trying to make things easier for students, to encourage students to ask for consideration without such a barrier, like making it easier for everyone and trying to ease mental health issues for students. So we can watch this video. I'm going to put the link in the chat in case you want to watch it later. It's very short. So here it is in the chat, if in case you want to just bookmark it to watch it later. Oh, did I get it? I'm just double checking what I have here. Oh, that is not it. Almost got the wrong one. My keyboard fell asleep. Maybe you all know what that's like with these wireless keyboards. Okay, there. So that's the YouTube link. Let's see if this works. And it's a video that was created by Heijin Lee, who's a student at the university.
Are you sick, heavily stressed, or have an emergency that causes you to miss a test, exam, or deadline? If yes, use the online academic consideration request, or ACR form. Through the ACR form, you can confidentially request an extension on an assignment or request to defer a test or exam. Did you know that all students at the university have the opportunity to request an extension or deferral without having to submit documentation one time per semester? This means no note is required from your doctor or health professional to make a request. Be sure to always try to plan ahead and make requests in advance wherever possible. When completing the form, don't worry about going into details or disclosing your personal information. The online ACR system will keep this private, and only the necessary individuals will be informed. If there is an extenuating circumstance that you believe will be an ongoing issue throughout the term, consult with your healthcare provider and complete a health certificate. Regardless of the concern, consult with your program administrator or academic advisor via email. It's always great to have evidence you're taking action to resolve the issue in a timely manner, especially if you end up needing to file a grade appeal at the end of the term. In any case, don't feel discouraged to email your professors to let them know you are coping with an extenuating circumstance, as ultimately they are the decision makers on granting academic consideration. If you miss a test or deadline without requesting consideration in advance, keep in mind you most likely will be required to submit documentation within 3 business days of the missed academic work in order to be granted a makeup or extension. Your instructor should consider granting your request for consideration, especially if you provide documentation. If you have any questions or concerns, reach out to the CESAX Student Rights Coordinator at studentrights@mycesax.ca. For more information, visit our website at mycesax.ca/student-rights.
Great. So hopefully y'all caught that. I think it's a pretty sweet little video. It is a lot of information though, and it's a little fast maybe. So I just want to put it out there and see if anyone has any questions about it. We are going to go in and sort of like unpack a lot of what was covered in the video in the next few slides anyways. But we'll just take a moment and see if there's any questions. Yeah, it is a lot, but hopefully it's starting to make sense because yeah, we've covered some of that content a bit, and we can just move forward here. So a bit of a summary. Basically, you can try to foresee and plan ahead. And if you see like a week in your semester where you're going to have multiple deadlines, you could request in advance academic consideration. That should work and be useful to you. Professors usually appreciate it when students do ask for an extension with a good amount of notice, like so well in advance if possible. And same with makeups. Like if you just already foresee that you're not going to make it to a midterm or a test or even just a quiz, let your professor know the week or 2 weeks or whenever, as soon as you know, basically. And then if it's more of an unforeseen situation, you're overwhelmed, you're in a jam, just don't hurry to maybe sloppily submit your essay. Just sort of pause, assess yourself, right? Don't maybe go into writing that midterm where you're really unwell. Just you don't have to. It's not absolutely mandatory. You have this option. So I would say, like, don't do the thing. Don't go do the midterm. Just pause. See if do you need help? Like, do you need to see your doctor as soon as possible? If so, go for it. Just like get the care that you need. And then you will have time to submit the academic consideration request. You have like 3 days basically after missing a test or missing a deadline to request the academic consideration. So you do have that option without providing documentation one time per semester. However, it's not always going to work for some professors, but it's worth trying, right? Yeah, and know that the online system is private. The university very carefully makes sure that their systems are secure. So that's good. You should feel comfortable utilizing it in that regard. And know that you can make one ACR for multiple course requirements, which is pretty convenient, right? Like if you're super sick one week and you miss a few assignments or obligations academically, then the ACR system will inform whoever you kind of check off for the certain courses. You will have to, of course, know your course codes in the system to enter the appropriate information to make it work properly, basically. So be aware that the decision-making is up to the professors or instructors for each course. They have the discretion to grant your request. Hopefully that's what they do. Or unfortunately, just like with any people, there's all types of folks and people out there. Same with professors. Some professors might not grant a request if you don't include documentation. Some are real sticklers, like strict, right? Some are tough and need to see evidence, right? A lot of academics tend to be, evidence-based. So sometimes they may ask you to get that documentation. But not all professors are tough. Some are very open-minded and want to help you succeed, right? So it's worth asking. So one little thing that the university prefers, the university likes it when students utilize their health certificate. It's a form. I will give you the link in 1 second. I'll have the link on my next slide. So basically, it's a form that will help your health professional or your doctor, could be your GP, of course, to just state the required info on this form so that it's meant to make it easy for them so they don't have to disclose diagnoses, they don't need to, get too elaborate. It's meant to just like cut to the chase with the basics of what's needed. So I have an example here. This is the first part of the health certificate, which you would complete. You would write in your student number, your name, the date, and sign off. Pretty easy. And then, yes, this is part B. So here's where your health professional, so it could be your therapist, it could be your chiropractor, it could be even a naturopath, it could be your psychologist, it could be a psychiatrist, of course, like any regulated health professional in Ontario, or regulated health professional maybe in general, because you might not be in Ontario, could complete this form. And I think I do need to let you know that serious, the checkbox, the box there that says serious, is really the strongest. And then that is really often what's needed to indicate that you're unwell and like incapacitated to the point of not being able to fulfill your academic requirements. So always make sure that your health professional completes the form thoroughly and that there's no missing information, because that can just create more trouble. You might have to go back and get another form completed, right? So just once you get it completed by your health professional, review it and make sure it's all good. And I'm gonna just try to find the link quickly here to the health certificate. 1 second. And I see there's some questions I need to address in the Q&A. So let me just copy this link in. Here's a link to the health certificate for everyone. And okay. So I'm gonna answer the questions unanswered in the Q&A a bit later, I think, just to try to move on with the presentation. Okay, so I seem to have lost my notes, but we'll go on to the next slide. Other types of supporting documentation that you could upload in the online ACR system are any type of formal documents like court records, a police report, eviction notice, obituary, death certificate, termination. So anything that's coming from even someone who's objective or professional. So it could be a statement from your lawyer, from a social worker, even a spiritual leader or manager or supervisor from your workplace could write a letter or a statement that you could include. Basically, you're going to be wanting to substantiate what happened and make sure that documentation shows maybe relevant dates that you were unwell during a certain time, or like there were complicating factors happening during a relevant period of time when you had your deadlines or you have your tests or your midterms, right? So anonymous attendee has asked if this is the first time this webinar is being presented. It is the first time this full version of this presentation is being presented. But a shorter version of this topic was presented last semester. Anyway, on to the next slide. So the online portal, it's fairly easy to find. I've been told I actually don't have access to the D2L structure of where you should be. I think students should be able to find a link through D2L to the ACR portal, or the other way that I usually recommend students to find it is through the Senate website, which I will put a link to and I will show here on the next slide. Bam, so this is the Senate website, and I'll put the link in the chat here in one moment. Okay, there we go. So yeah, you can obviously just Google like Ryerson academic consideration requests and it'll come up. But here, it's just under resources on the Senate website. And so, yeah, down here, you click on online academic consideration requests and it will cover, it'll connect into your RAMS or your My Ryerson account. So you just follow the prompts there. And then basically here is just a little overview. So use the system, use the academic consideration requests, try to look ahead and foresee when you're going to get overwhelmed and think about like just whether you need more time and whether, you know, like having that extra week maybe could be granted for your assignment or a few days. It can usually make a big difference. And then if you do miss a test, if you miss those obligations, try to use the ACR process as soon as you can afterwards, so that you can be granted your makeup. And then also, yeah, just ask for help. If you are feeling just confused or maybe a little bit shy or inhibited about getting clarification for something, that's a sign that like you should really you know, ask for help, and you can ask various different people for assistance. Yeah, like that you can always consult with your program administrator, or folks who are taking even a certificate program through the Chang School. Reach out to the Chang School, like just send client support, that, you know, the whole triage system over in the Chang School, an email, or you can call them. They will be able to give you some idea of like what to do. They may, if it's very course specific, advise you to consult with your instructor or professor. And your professors, instructors, they should be answering and responding to your emails and to your questions. It's a part of their job, right? So don't hesitate to reach out. But yeah, like communicating, seeking out some assistance is actually a super key element if you end up needing to do a grade appeal or a standing appeal down the road. So I'll touch on that in a couple of slides as well. But yeah, you can get help asking for help. Like you could reach out to me even, or if you're registered with academic accommodation support, you can be in touch with your facilitator through AAS. They're there to help you with any questions that you have, especially around your accommodations, if you have them set up. Yeah, and usually program administrators or academic advisors or student affairs coordinators, these folks have different names a lot of the times, but they're really meant to be there to help you. So don't hesitate to reach out. They can have a meeting with you, like through Zoom or through Google Meeting, or talk to you on the phone as well. Right, and so I wanted to mention again academic accommodation support, because this service is so key. It's so important. So it's for students that have disabilities, and it could be if you are thinking that maybe you do have even a chronic or ongoing health concern that could be recognized as a disability as well, or learning disabilities. So consult with AAS. They have intake specialists that can explain the process to get registered and give you the required forms that would need to be completed by your doctor or specialist. And so, yeah, there's the link to find out more about AAS. And you can always email their intake folks. So it is an awkward acronym, isn't it? But AAS admin@ryerson.ca is their email. And yeah, be in touch with them. Oh, yes, I will just, let's see, I can put the link in the chat again too. There we go. Here's a link if you want to learn more. And remember, getting registered as soon as you can in the semester is really important to get your accommodation letter and get that set up and inform your instructors. Yeah, and so just a couple policies I wanted to highlight too that can also be useful. Of course, policy 159 is the academic accommodation of students with disability policy. So that is the policy that basically sets out what is required and how the university should accommodate. It's a human right. It's important for students with disabilities to be accommodated. So check out that policy if you want to learn more. And I will put it in the chat for you too. So many links going into the chat. Yeah, I think that link gives you a description of the policy rather than going into the policy language itself. And then, yeah, that was for 150. No, that was, never mind. That is 159. So policy 150 though is accommodation of student religious and spiritual observance. So if you have an upcoming holiday that you want to observe and require time off, you should just follow the process set out in this policy, which I will also put in the chat here. So this obviously would be relevant if folks are observing Ramadan, or like if you're feeling like that you're not going to be able to fully give your best academic abilities during that time and need to have makeups or other extensions around that time, you can use this policy as well. So yeah, did I here copy and paste into the chat again? There's 150. Then on to some other resources. So be aware there is the medical center. It's on campus. It's in a corner of Kerr Hall, very close to Girard and Young, basically. It's close to that major intersection. And they're meant to cater towards students at the university, right? So you can make an appointment. Could be a walk-in, like if you are just a student at the university, be in touch with them if you don't have your own general practitioner or doctor. And then, of course, also really great service. There's free counseling for students at the university through the Center for Student Development and Counseling. So if you haven't already been in touch with this service center, you can email them, you can call them. I think every student, including Chang School students just doing one-off Chang School courses even, should be entitled to at least one session that's free of charge. And then full-time students and also part-time degree students can have multiple sessions and can have more support kind of ongoing through their studies and their programs. So check out that center. They're very, very good people. Yes, I should put the links in the chat. So here is a link to all of the wellness resources that the university offers. Okay, and there's also the Office of Student Care. So this is meant for students facing more complex challenges. It could also be a resource for students that are concerned about their friends or like roommates. If you're worried about another student, you're welcome to be in touch with this office. They will help kind of do intake, figure out what's going on, and they can get you in touch with the most relevant point people to help you and help solve your issue. If it's to do with OSAP, issues around your financial situation, they can get you in touch with the best point people in student aid, and get you set up with a counselor as well. So feel free to reach out to them if you're feeling like it is a complex situation and you want that kind of holistic support. And if you're looking for talking to someone on the phone, if you're in distress or in crisis or have a friend who is, you're welcome to pass along this phone number. It's free, it's confidential for anyone experiencing emotional crisis or needing immediate assistance. So that's a great resource to be aware of. The Gerstein Center Distress Line. Oh, by the way, all folks that have registered and attended the event, I can send the slides out to you with the link to the recording of this presentation in the next few days. So that'll come your way. Another phone line is Good to Talk. It's also free, confidential. Support line for any post-secondary school students. So utilize that, share that number with your friends. And then finally, like as a last resort, be aware that you have recourse. You have the ability to appeal your grades or your academic standing if you're in a program at the university. It's a formal appeal process that exists in case you're unable to resolve conflicts or issues during the semester. So that could be your backup plan to be able to challenge your final grade in the course or your academic standing if you become withdrawn or permanently program withdrawn, all those various standings. And yeah, I can help you out. I'm available if you need help navigating these processes. So yeah, feel free to be in touch. We're really wrapping things up at this point here. So here is my contact information and also the website where you can find kind of more comprehensive info on the various types of appeals and student rights at the university. So be in touch. Email is really kind of the preferred means for being in touch in a sense, because we're mostly all working remotely still, and email is just the most efficient way to get in touch with me rather than my phone line, as I'm not in the office. Though if you do call me, I should be notified that there's a voicemail message, and I'll get it eventually.